Come to you real quick, family, because we're gonna have probably another live tomorrow. But I wanted to share this information before I did the live because it's important for you to see that the natives that they have shown today are not the ones that they were enslaving in the past. Now, this is why it's so important to get these books, these first edition books, and bring this information out. Because look, the Most High made these people put this information in the books. So once you have the correct understanding, then it's like your clues were left. The Most High made these people leave these clues, and once you have the understanding through the Holy Spirit, then you'll be able to decipher the clues. The other nations are very quiet because they are not in any position. Just like they shouldn't have never touched our scriptures, they shouldn't act like they were authority over our scriptures. They damn sure are not an authority over our history. But this is the Most High. He controls both sides. So, if they really could fight, they would. But the Most High has shut their mouths. So you still get people that are still, the only thing they can try to do is deceive you into giving them your energy. You following their plan. You trying to figure out how somehow Jacob's trouble involves everyone. How it's for everyone. And you give them that energy of yours. But I'm going to show you something. It's not going to be a long video. I said because I want you to see it. And then we'll discuss it more tomorrow. Because you're going to see like how, they did photo ops in the 1800s, 1900s. And in these photo ops, that's when they started putting pictures of the people they wanted to represent the Aztecs. The people they wanted to represent the Mayans. The people they wanted to represent the Mexicans. The ones they want to represent the Native Americans. That's why in older pictures, you don't see their pictures. You don't see before the Spaniards got here, you don't see them all over, the walls and the pyramids. That's why we're not allowed to go into them. That's why on the video earlier, they push the line back. They try to push the people further away from the pyramids. And the main ones that are trying to push away from the pyramids are the ones that activated them in the first place. The ones that the angels and the spirits are waiting for in these places. They're waiting for the chosen remnant to return. And they're doing their best to, these are our laws. Although, the locals don't want you this close. And it's like the locals don't even control these areas. It's again, the Spaniards and you Europeans still control these areas, and you just put the people that we see today out as frontmen. That's all that you guys do. Just like you try to put, these pastors, these blastos out here, these black pastors out here, like they're the ones that are coming up with these, talking points in these sermons when it's actually the white people who are the ones that give them their approval, just like during slavery times. You can go out front and you can talk to your people. We're going to tell you what you can say. We're going to tell you what to say. And then once you understand that, then you start to see how, their sermons just repeat over and over again. It's the same sermons over and over again. Now, I see Brother Sly, I think, sent me a video. Talking about Pastor Mitchell's. Pastor says blacks should submit to law and order. And it's like, are we back in slavery again? I'm going to play the start of it. Fair use. It's on Tariq Radio. You just hear it's just the same thing that they've always had these pastors say. Just put a black face. They put a black face out there to say what the white people always wanted us to do. So here we go.
Stop blaming white cops for the killing of black kids. Instead, teach your black children to be obedient towards authority. And I don't care if most of y'all are black. You need to teach your children to obey authority. We need to teach our sons and daughters to obey authority. We need to teach our children to not fight against authority, not fight against cops, not rebel. Be model citizens. Stop being rebellious towards authority. be submitted to laws and ordinances. Stop parking in handicapped spaces unless you want a reason to park there. Pay your taxes and stop cheating on your documents. I'm gonna go deep. I'm about to get everybody mad. Stop bending your numbers. Watch. The Lord said, give back to Caesar what belongs to him. That is, be submitted to governmental authority. See, now watch. I see all of y'all looking at me. You know what?
Now, again, give to Caesar what is Caesar's. Well, Caesar has lost authority over these lands. These lands are not working for Rome anymore. So are they going to give the lands back to the Most High's chosen people? Or are they going to fight? Are they going to actually admit who we are? Are they going to continue to lie? See, he's giving what's Caesar's, he's giving back to what's Caesar's. That's what Mitchell is doing. And he can have all of the vassals. Those are all for Caesar. He can have all the vassals. Those are all for Caesar. Right? He can have all of the heathens and the Gentiles that don't come to the Most High. Those are all for you. I said, but the ones that belong to the Most High, you're still trying to control. You're still trying to control. You're still trying to control the history. You're still trying to control the interpretation of the scriptures. The Most High is not talking about no 7-year tribulation period for his children after they've already gone through 400 plus years. That 400 plus years, that's given to Caesar. What is Caesar's? That is what Caesar has coming to Caesar right now. They got double. They got 1,000 years of payment. That is what Caesar's. We're giving Caesar what Caesar's. And that's what we're telling them. You got 1,000 years coming. You got 1,000 years hard labor. The people who are joined onto you, they have 1,000 years. We're giving back. We're doing what's biblical. We're telling you the truth. Are you doing the same thing? Are you being obedient? Are you just going to be obedient to the 1,000 years that you owe us and the Father and the Most High? Or are you fighting back? Saying, nah, that's not true. See, that's what Caesar has coming to Caesar. And all of his little peons. You got 1,000 years. You got Numbers 35 and 33. You got Jeremiah 30 and 16. You got Revelation 18. Are you guys about to take what Caesar's? Or are you still fighting that? Now I'm going to show you a little something. Check this out. This is how Laplongian here was used in a very mighty way. And I'm going to show you something. From Queen Mu, all right, and the Egyptian Sphinx. Now, it's very important. Augustus Laplongian, MD. The main thing I want you to see right now is when this book was published. 1896. See that right there? 1896. By this time, the so-called Native Americans or Indians had been out of slavery for hundreds of years. It was, by the Spaniards, it was illegal to enslave Indians, but it was still legal to enslave black people. Black people still had these curses on them. And these people were still servants, and they were still being treated as slaves. But so-called Indians had been given the opportunity to become white, just like and join the church and be converted and have some rights, correct? Now watch. This is how you know who the true Indians were. By how they were treated. Don't go by what the pictures that they show you from the 50s and the 60s. I'll show you that later on. They get the ones that they want to play that role. They put on a costume and they take pictures in specific areas. And say, these ones have been here for thousands of years. But let's see. Take a look here. Page 176. What bitter irony. Every day, all over the land, some working men on haciendas or plantations, servientes, as they are called, are pitilessly and arbitrarily flogged by their overseers. So these, see, this was illegal. If this was a so-called Native American, they wouldn't be flogged and they wouldn't have overseers, because the priests and the Spaniards in the country of Spain had already made it illegal. I want to say in the 1600s, late 1500s, early 1600s, for natives to be treated like this. Only people that could be treated like this were so-called black people. So again, arbitrarily flogged by their overseers, put in stocks during the night so that their day's work may not be left undone, and otherwise cruelly punished for the smallest offenses or oversight. Now again, this could not have been the natives you see today, because it was illegal for them to be treated like this. It says, true, we are told that there are laws printed in the codes that forbid such iniquitous treatment, and that those subjected to it can complain. And to whom? If they lay their grievances before the owner of the hacienda, their only redress is to receive a double ration of lashes. Okay? So for daring to complain. Now that was only people that were, that were even complaining about anything would have been our people. It would have been our people at that time. Okay? But you're going to see right now that this is something that has been happening for generations. There were not generations of so-called Indians being treated like this. The only people that were treated like this for generations were so-called black people. Let's see here. If they lodge a complaint before a judge, as by law they have a right, he, of course, is the friend or relative of the planter. He himself may be a planter on his own plantation, right? He has servants who are treated in like manner. So even the judges had slaves treated like this. What remains for the poor devil to do but to endure and be resigned? Now that would be our people who had to just endure and be resigned to their station. Native Americans or Indians did not suffer like this. And they for sure were not suffering in the 1890s. Okay? It says, his father, this is very important, his fathers have suffered as he suffers, as his children will suffer. This is something that's going on generationally. This is not and it was not going on generation over generation after generation after generation, and in the future. Now this guy's writing in 1896, right? So he's saying again, his fathers have suffered as he suffers, as his children will suffer. So again, this is a people that has been suffering from the past and the present and will continue in the future. This was not happening to so-called natives that you see today. So therefore, he's not telling you about these Indians that he's talking about were so-called black people, so-called Negroes, because they were the only ones that were still, treated like this for centuries, for generations. Remember, all the other people fought to be called, like the Chinos fought to be called Indians, because they could not be treated like this. That's a very important part. His fathers have suffered as he suffers, as his children will suffer. And the only one that was suffering like this were the people that were under the curses. Now it says, these facts I do not report from hearsay, but from actual personal observation. So he watched it happening. Now watch. How many times have I witnessed the whipping of some poor creature for the most trifling cause, without being able to interfere in his behalf, knowing well that such interference would be resented and would entail on the victim a more severe punishment later on. Now see, this is why the 12 tribes chart is busted, because you keep throwing people in there that did not suffer the curses. It was illegal, and they have the opportunity to get out of the curses. Yes, they might have went into slavery for a short amount of time to pay a debt or something like that, but it was not anything that went from your fathers to you, to your children, and generation after generation after generation. Not on the scale that it went for so-called Negroes. Okay? And this person in 1896, or in the late 1890s, he's witnessing it firsthand. Okay? Says, to a gentleman, a very staunch Catholic. Now look, the Catholic Church was the priests were the ones that were fighting to keep the Indians out of slavery. It was these priests that said, oh, no, don't do this to the Indians. Do this to the black people. Do this to the Negro. So if you're a Catholic, you're well aware of these laws, and you're not going to want to put yourself in a bad situation. So therefore, you are not going to, just sit idly by and watch them enslave Indians because you knew it was illegal. So again, to a gentleman, a very staunch Catholic, who considered it a sin to fail to attend Mass every morning, who had been educated in the colleges of Europe and of the United States. So he's well aware of the laws. He's been educated in Europe and the United States. So he knew that these Indians that they're showing you today were not allowed to be treated like this. But the so-called Negroes were allowed to be treated like this. It says, I was once making some observations on the bad treatment inflicted on the Indians and the plantations, which, though most Christian-like, was notwithstanding extremely barbarous, when he interrupted me by saying, well, they are accustomed to it. Who would they say are accustomed to being treated like this? The Indians? No. Who would have been accustomed to this in the 1890s? Negroes. So again, this is more proof again that the Indians, before the photo-opped ones, before the ones they just wanted to shove in your face, were so-called black people. You look at how they're treated. Okay, well, they are accustomed to it. Al indio pan y palo. Okay, for the Indians, bread and stick is the common saying throughout the country. For the Indian, bread and stick is the common saying throughout the country. Who is the one being treated like this? So-called black people. And here to let you know that the black people, the Negroes, were Indians. Alas, for the poor Indian, this saying is true only in part. For very little bread falls to his share, but abundance of lashes. Of course, those ill-treated people at times become exasperated, who would not, and they kill their overseers, just like Nat Turner. Woe to them, for they are soon and surely made to remember that there are criminal laws enacted by Congress to punish such as they. So they got laws that punish us for fighting back. You don't see any. I haven't seen any stories of so-called natives, today, going through this, getting whips on their, getting whipped and lashes on their back. Same people saying, oh, they're accustomed to it. When this guy was a Catholic, and he was well educated and went to the Mass every single day, and he knew that you couldn't treat the Indians that you see today like this. So this is why now we're talking about giving Caesar what is Caesar's. Caesar has 1,000 years of servitude ready for him. So Most High is about to give Caesar what is Caesar's, and all that have been following Caesar. So now you see how old boy got his church so fast, because he's just saying exactly what, he's just like those pastors that during slavery times, that were told what to say by the landowners, by the masters, and they would have this black pastor go out there and just regurgitate whatever he's told, and that's exactly what he is. It's about authority. Are you guys going to obey the authority of the Most High? Are you going to obey the words of the Most High? What's written in the book? Are you Christians? You Constantine Christians going to obey what's in there, or not? Because we've finished our 400 years. 1619, 2019, even more. And it says in there, after we've served our 400 years, then you're going to return everything back to us. Are you going to do that? Are you going to give the Most High's what is his? Caesar got what it was his. He got dominion for a time. But that dominion is over with. So is Caesar ready to give the Most High what is his? Is he ready to give the mother what is hers? We'll see. So let me prove to you that this was illegal. Real quick. Asian slaves in colonial Mexico. Right here. Look at the top where it says the Spanish monarch employed the church to baptize and guide colonized subjects. The church did not have the same institutional role we regard, did not have the same institutional role with regard to slaves. Okay, so-called Negroes, because they're the only people that could be enslaved at this time. The church's concern with Indians almost stemmed from its 16th century commitment to create a utopian Christian society in the New World. There you go. From the 16th century, it's like the late 1500s. In the context of the first missions, clergymen argued that the church had a special role as a defender of the Indians and that they needed to employ peaceful means to convert native people. See that? And you can use the word Indians and Native American. They have different meanings as aboriginals, the original people, right? The most important and long-standing argument against enslaving Indians was that the gospel had to be accepted willingly by free men. So these other natives that you see today they had to be pretty much converted by peaceful means. The most important and long-standing argument against enslaving Indians was that the gospel, had to be accepted willingly by free men. As such, the church remained singularly committed to converting and protecting the indigenous population from overt exploitation and enslavement through the colonial period. So there you go. So they're showing you right here. The other guy was talking about he just watching these people get destroyed, getting enslaved and getting whipped and flogged, and that was something that was illegal back then. So again, for instance, in 1674, Jesuit Diego de Rosales, who had lived among the Mapuches in Chile, argued that Indians should never be enslaved under any pretext because it frustrated the goal of teaching them the Catholic faith. The church in the Philippines maintained a similar stance. It repeatedly called for the emancipation of Indian slaves owned by native chiefs, until this was finally done at the end of the 17th century. So at the end of the 1600s, this is already done. As a result of these efforts, the crown finally decreed an end to indigenous slavery throughout the Spanish Empire. No native person of Spain's colonies could be enslaved or kept in slavery under the guise of making them Christians. So again, when you're reading about the accounts that Napoleon was talking about, what was going on in the 1890s, that was not the Indians you see today, because it was illegal, and he was well educated in the Americas, in Europe, so he knew the laws. He knew that it was illegal to do those things. So as a good Catholic, you wouldn't allow these Indians to pay and be treated like that. The only people you would allow to be treated like that were so-called Negroes. So again, now you guys are busted again. And you're not going to say anything anyways. I said, because you guys already know that what we're saying is true, and you have no rebuttal. But you'll go to church this Sunday, and you'll go ahead and do your Easter egg hunt, and you'll be praying to white Jesus to save you and everything else. But trust me, white Jesus has now got you to the point where you're going to have to pay. You're going to have to pay for what's due to Caesar. And what's due to Caesar is 1,000 years of hard labor. Much love, family. Shalom.